Yay.
There we go. All right.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. We couldn't figure it out.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Dave.
Is Wally there now? Because Wally was calling me on the phone.
Eileen,
Yeah, it was supposed to start by itself,
Eileen.
but apparently it didn't start by itself. So I just force started it. So I'll just leave this run, and then when you guys are done, everybody can just sign off.
hello.
What's the matter?
Hello.
It's Debbie Cambria. I'm in. Hello. Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Tim.
The phone on the phone has the echo.
I got rid of it.
hello. It's Debbie Cambria. I'm in the meeting.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Can you hear
we
me?
can hear you.
We gotcha.
Okay, fine. Okay,
It's
fine. I had
Marilyn.
trouble
I'm in the
getting it.
meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
I see Lynn. I see Wally.
Oh, you see
Kevin.
Wally? Good. Oh, there's Wally. All right.
Yep.
Awesome.
David, Ari, Nick, Matt. Oh, they keep switching on me. Dave Sutton.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah. Oh, there's Tim.
Yeah, no, I had to force start it, Wally. I don't know what happened. It didn't work. So I'm just going to mute myself and you guys can run it as you normally would.
All right. But thank you, Tim. I can't spell the word tech, as I've said before, and I don't want to learn at my age.
No problem.
So, yeah. Good evening, everybody. That means you too, Dave.
Thank you, Wally.
All right, sorry for being a little late, but I was in panic mode for a bit there, worried that, yeah, I couldn't get this meeting started. Oh, and I see my name is still Linda Pacer. That's my alias. But all right, let's start the meeting since I'm a tad late getting in. And yeah, Nick, I only saw most immediately on the approval of the old minutes. I only saw one that Kelly sent out, and that was for the October meeting. Did I miss something somewhere to your knowledge?
Hang on, Wally, let me find out, take a look. All right, so the minutes from the October 9 meeting, she distributed those on the 5th of November.
Right.
I have in my records the minutes from September 2nd's meeting. I sent to her on September 8th. And I don't see where it was distributed after that. So maybe that's the missing minutes.
Yeah, certainly the minutes from November 4th haven't been finalized. So with that, I think we just put off those two. And I'll try and find out what happened to the November 4th, because I think you forwarded them on already.
Yeah, I'll have to check, Wally, and find out. I'm sure. Yeah, I remember discussing those when I had a question, and I'm confident that those were submitted to Kelly, but I'm going to have to double check that.
Yeah, and I'll check with Kelly too. I did. Confirm that she would be our contact, for minutes and things of that nature. So
right, and I just found it, Wally. I did submit those minutes to Kelly on the 8th of November of 2021. So they must not have been distributed out of her office. So we'll have to double check that.
all right, I'll note that down. but yeah, well, we can't do anything with that and, yeah. I don't believe October 7th were approved either. And I know those were passed out, but I'm not concerned about, doing that today. We'll confirm that, and move on to, the new business most immediately. And the new placement of a no parking sign on the north side of Cadman. I think Eileen had sent out an email to everybody on that issue. And candidly, though obviously I'd like to hear others on it. It seems to be a little issue that just moving the sign, in my mind, westward on the other side of the adjoining driveway, and putting it on the light pole, like I think Dan Ryder had mentioned in an email. I'm not sure, and I certainly don't want to attribute something like that to you, Dan. Yeah, yeah. And
They make a clamp for doing exactly that.
yeah,
But
but
it's a radiator clamp type thing you put around the light post.
okay, yeah, and it makes sense because you can't park, even if it is less than, say, 20 feet from the intersection or what have you. You can't park there anyway because they're the abutting owner's driveway. So my thinking would be just to do just that, move the sign to the light post. I don't know if anyone else has any suggestions just on that issue.
Did
Mr.
everybody,
B,
who's speaking?
the property owner there, the guy's last name begins with a B. It's a long name. I call him Mr. B. I said, how about if we put it on the light post? He says, good idea. He liked that.
So that was enough for him? That was satisfactory?
Yeah. In fact, he said he might attend this meeting today. He probably didn't know it turned out to be a Zoom meeting. He maybe
Yeah.
pounding on the door at the village hall.
Now, that one picture he submitted, I don't know if you can bring those up, Matt. It shows the lamppost.
I couldn't open that image, but I have Google Maps here.
I
Can
couldn't
let me,
So
either,
why
yeah.
don't why don't we show that real quick? If we
I
can,
got it.
the
Ready?
Google, yeah,
Here we go. Let's go on a voyage.
there we go.
So 415 is this house. 409 is the one with the minivan. So the lamppost is right there.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, right on that
Okay.
side of the other side is right there. You're right, Matt.
Got it.
Put it right
And-
there.
You don't have the no parking sign here, though. It's in
No,
this
I
little
couldn't open that
grass
image.
island.
Yeah, it's in the
Hold on,
island.
It's
I
in
can
that
try
little
real
grass
quick.
island.
Hold on, I'll try it. It wants me to download something. It's a little weird.
Well, the Google photo probably isn't up to date because those signs are fairly new.
Stand by.
Yeah,
If you go out there, the snowbanks are so high, you have
There
to
it
kind of
is.
use
Awesome.
little.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Now there's about 2 feet of snow when you go out there now, so you don't really know what you're looking at.
Well, if you bring up the other picture, Matt, it shows the lamppost.
Stand by.
Here we go.
There you go.
You see it right there?
yeah. Candidly, I think if that serves the purpose for everybody, why not just move it when they can?
All right, I'll let Ben know.
Is it okay? Like, does the village have precedence for doing that, for putting signs on lampposts? I think I've seen them on lampposts.
Yeah, and Ben said, this happened before where the board has approved a certain signage and then within weeks they had to change it because everybody got upset. So it's not uncommon. So I'll put the request in, and if Ben needs, more approval, then I'll go to the board. But for now, I'll just submit it to Ben.
All right, yeah, does that require board approval, Eileen, or?
I don't think so at this point. I mean, I'll run it
Yeah.
by Ben and see what he says. But I doubt it. I will, if it needs to go to the board, then I'll bring it to the board, on February 14th.
I wouldn't imagine, but yeah. All right, I mean, and if that's okay, with this committee to make a simple recommendation along those lines. Yeah, so be it. Does anyone have any other thoughts on it?
No, I think it's a good idea.
All right. If not, I don't necessarily want to formalize anything, but at best, the committee can make a recommendation, and maybe we do it rather simply if somebody wants to do a motion on it very quickly.
I'll motion, we move the no parking sign to the light post.
Is it, who?
You got to be a little bit more specific than that.
Well,
Dan.
I don't know what house we're putting it in front of. I don't know the number of the house.
What house is that, Matt?
Well, I know it's between 409 and 415, according to the email.
Well, the
Okay,
light
that's good
post is
enough.
in front of the guy's house.
All right. So that
Looks
must
like-
be 409, I'm guessing.
No, 415. It's the light post in front of
415, yeah.
Okay,
415.
All right.
Okay,
That's-
I'll move that we move the no parking sign to the light post in front of 415 Cadman.
Look,
Got
there's Mr. If you look real closely, there's Mr. B. He's there watching us.
He's there all the time. He caught me out.
That's funny.
Uh,
All right.
Is there a second?
I second it.
And the seconds by whom? I'm sorry.
It's Marilyn.
Okay, Marilyn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, let's move on.
By
Yeah.
the way, as long as we're on the subject of Mr. B, he seems very interested in village traffic and parking and so on and so forth. He may be a good guy to get on this committee. That's
We
I
do have
invited
an
him to the
opening.
meeting, and he's
Yeah, we
probably
have an
outside,
opening.
He's ready to rock.
probably at the village hall right now, beating on a door.
Yeah,
Oh, poor guy.
yeah, it dawned on me after the fact that maybe somebody should have posted a notice on the back door from the village saying that this was going to be by Zoom after all. A bit late to do that now.
The trustee problem now.
Yeah.
Oops, thanks.
All right, moving on to old business, the Milos project, for lack of a better way to put it. Dave, since I couldn't remember the address of it. Yeah. And Dave, you're here. Is anyone else with you this evening?
I don't believe so. I think it's just me. Sean Hopkins had offered to join us because he was at the last meeting, but I told him I didn't think it was necessary. I think we're just continuing to follow up with the conversations we've had I think we've been in front of you guys 2 to 3 times already now. So I know that Sean was able to talk about some of the concerns you had in terms of traffic and the idea that we were closing off several of the entrances on Main Street, which is desirable, if not mandated by New York State. And we were going to control all the traffic in and out of this property off of the side street, which is Highland Drive. And it has been formally documented that There's actually going to be a substantial reduction in the number of car traffics for the prior use, which is the Milo's restaurant, compared to the mixed-use building, which is being proposed. So I don't know if the board or any of the committee members had any specific questions, but we are moving forward with our approval process. We are looking to have planning board approval within the next couple months. We have engineered drawings underway. I do have a screen share if you want. I don't know if everybody has the documents. If you want, I can screen share the floor plan just to
Please.
remind everybody the layout and maybe reference it if,
I have one question, if I may.
for sure.
This just comes from dealing with the Bloker home thing. I notice on the chart that a number of the places around this are residential properties. Am I correct?
A number, the rear of the property, if you look at the document that I've just posted, there are some residential properties that are at the back portion of this property, but it's also surrounded by the north, west, and east by commercial properties.
Okay, my question is a very simple one. Are there any lighting issues for the residents in that
So-
area with the way the parking lot is or anything like that with, it's hard to tell from this thing here.
Yeah,
I
good.
just remember going through this with the Bloker home thing that the residents surrounding, because there
Right.
are regulations with regard to lighting and parking lots and stuff.
Very, very good question. Obviously, our goal is to make sure that we have a safe and secure environment at the parking lot, but we're also
Right.
obligated through the planning board process to provide what we call a 0-foot candle at the property lines. So we are designing and will be submitting to the planning board a lighting schedule, which will ensure that we have 0-foot candles and no light spillage onto any adjacent properties. That includes commercial and residential. Now,
Okay.
there might be some spillage at the ingress and egress of the property onto the public right-of-way, and that's usually part of our design because that's part of the safety, but there will be no light spillage on the neighboring properties. And the one thing I can tell you, just so this board knows, we have actually had neighborhood meetings. We invited all the neighbors adjacent to join us, and we have had a meeting, and we do intend on having another follow-up meeting so that we can be very specific to their concerns and their requests to make sure that we're as neighbor-friendly as possible.
Very good. That was my concern, was the lighting onto neighborhood properties.
Yep, for sure.
Hey, Dave, in your opening comments, you mentioned about the lack of curb cuts on Main Street. I think you said preferred by the state. And I seem to recall that in one of the initial meetings when this project was brought before this board, the term mandated by the state, the
Right.
elimination of the curb cut. So is it mandated or preferred?
So my original presentation, I believe I said, is preferred if not mandated. We
Okay.
would, if we were going to keep a curb cut on Main Street, we would literally have to fight for it. If we wanted to relocate a curb cut, they would outright deny us. So if we wanted, we have a right to keep the curb cuts on the Main Street if, because they're already there. But the village standards, the design standards mandate that we eliminate all curb cuts. And as well as the state DOT will not issue a curb cut permit onto Main Street. They want us to use the ancillary or side streets in order to ingress and egress the property in order for us to have a more controlled traffic onto and off of Main Street.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Dave, it's Wally, obviously.
Well, it might be Linda.
Yeah, it might be. God knows I've changed that a half a dozen times already, and it keeps coming back.
Right. Yes, Wally.
Yeah. Look, Yeah, I realize you've eliminated the curb cuts. I've said this before that I still like a Main Street exit because they don't like shunting all the traffic onto Highland and or other side streets. Yeah, at least a right turn availability. Yeah, but as I recall, without looking at the present layout, there's no way you could utilize what curb cuts there. Is that correct?
That's correct. Plus, if you look at the village design standards, they don't want any curb cuts on Main Street. They don't want conflicts with traffic and pedestrian. So I understand what you're saying from a personal standpoint, but from a design standard and the state mandate, the curb cuts are supposed to be minimized and not encouraged at all on Main Street. So we're kind of following your design standards when we're designing this building here.
Yeah, too bad Benderson didn't do it with Chipotle.
Right.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that Benderson actually fought very hard to have that driveway to come out on the Main Street, not only with the village, but also with the state. And we want to provide a product here in a building that really is in compliance to the intent of the design standards.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't think Benderson has to fight hard about much of anything, but
Well, there was an existing curb cut there though, Wally.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
two,
Right.
one or two. So
Right.
it may have
Yeah.
been two reduced to one. So that's just what Mr. Sutton said, that the state
yeah.
can't take existing ones away.
All right.
So,
No, I don't want to belabor the obvious that there is either you fight for a brand new curb cut that looks like it would have to go on the west end of the building, I assume, if you were Main Street, or you shunt all the traffic on and off Highland and wherever it goes from there. Has that been asked by the homeowners in that prior meeting?
The homeowners were very appreciative. They're actually, they ask a lot of questions, and I think we answered a lot of them. They were actually pretty excited about the project. The discussion was, did we want to, we were talking about having a right turn only to turn right from Highland onto Main Street. And some people said they preferred that didn't happen. If somebody would turn and go right onto Highland to maybe go down to Worley, then it wouldn't back up traffic on their street of people maybe making left or rights. There was some discussion about maybe Highland being concerned during certain hours of not making a left-hand turn on the Main Street. And what we had indicated is that we really don't have any control over regulating left or right-hand turn during certain times, much like they do over here at California near the squeeze. They actually try to regulate left-hand turns during peak hours of traffic. And I said that we would be receptive, if not supportive, if the village or this traffic and safety committee wanted to consider regulating left-hand turns from Highland onto Main Street for the good, not only of this project, but maybe for the neighborhood in general. We would be supportive of that, but it would not be something, it would be out of our control and beyond the limits or the scope of our project.
the one at California works, doesn't it? The no left at California?
Only when people obey it.
Well, yeah, there's a few idiots.
Yeah, but for the most part, yeah, I think it does. I think it curbs the traffic and allows it to run a little freer for sure.
And that, that's a time no left turn, if I remember
That's correct.
correctly.
That is peak, that's peak hour traffic. And I think it's 7 to 9 in the morning and maybe in the evening too, but it does tend to work. And once again, we'd be very supportive of it, but it is out of our realm of
Right.
be able to do it. We can't mandate what goes on the street or the intersection of Highland and Main.
And, yeah.
And what we did is we had talked to the neighbors. We advised that some of the neighbors might want to participate in a future meeting of traffic and safety and maybe bring up that topic of conversation, and we would maybe even be a part of it to help kind of resolve anything. But once again, I mean, we feel pretty confident that I need to reinforce the fact that, with this restaurant, it actually has an occupant capacity of over 400 people for the banquet and for the restaurant. And this is a substantial reduction in the overall parking demand and traffic demand.
Now, I don't know if the committee is prepared to do anything on this. You said you're a couple of months away yet with planning board, Dave, but does anyone else have any thoughts or concerns with respect to this project?
Nope.
Nope.
I'd almost like to invite, and I do really like in-person meetings, but at least the neighbors, to attend a traffic and safety meeting, the people on Highland and or on the adjoining streets. I'd almost like to invite them to the next meeting if they want to show up. Just to see if they have any concerns traffic wise. But Dave, were you looking for this committee to make any recommendation tonight?
Ultimately, yes, because unless there's concerns that you want me to take away and try to address or resolve. But obviously, when we go back to the planning board, they want to know your position. And unfortunately, they are hesitant to make their approvals without your position or approval of the plan. So we're getting caught now where they're holding us up because they want to hear from you. And now you're suggesting that, well, they're going to not make a decision, so we're not going to make a decision. So if you give me some direction of a redesign or concerns, I can move forward and bring it back to the civil engineer. But, I know the planning board is going to ask me the result of this meeting, and I'd like to give them some type of input for sure, so that they can feel comfortable that they know your position on the project.
That was likely to happen within the next meeting before ultimately you have to get approval, but does anyone have any thoughts with respect to I'm more concerned with traffic mitigation, I think, and the amount of traffic and which way it goes on Highland. I do like the idea of like California Drive, perhaps limiting left-hand turns for a designated period from Highland on to Main. But
one thing I can tell you, Wally, and this was talked about not only with the neighbors, but also I believe at a prior meeting, that the regulating of left-hand turns at that intersection, number one, might be something that is done only after there's been an identified problem. One of the concerns of the neighbors was, well, please don't put up a sign of a no left turn if there's no problem. Now, when I go to work, I can't make a left turn when there's no problem. So her recommendation when we met with the neighbors were, why can't we wait and see if there's a concern or a consensus, then we could always go to the Traffic and Safety Board and request it instead of automatically mandating it, which may be presenting a little bit of an inconvenience for the neighboring properties and not as a result of any concerns, so, and I can probably get you her name so that you can chat directly with her, but she was concerned if we started doing that and there wasn't a problem that she would be inconvenienced and it wasn't really fixing a problem, it was creating one.
Kevin, candidly, I'd like to see what kind of accident reports there are, say for that intersection. In advance of any decision. But I'd also, if you could, come up with any accident reports for California and Maine before and after the village put up the no left turn signs. And I think Dave's right. We can always consider that later, irrespective of the project at hand. But
Okay.
Do you recall when they put that in? I'm sure I have it somewhere, but I don't off the top of my head.
California?
Yeah.
You'd have to check with the village. I know because my office is right next door here. It's probably been up for maybe 2 years.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say no
because
more than
I'm
two.
right up the road. I think it's got to be at least 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take a look. I'll email you tomorrow. I can't get on my site right now, but I'll take a look at the accidents and just give you kind of like a general what there was, how many, and if there's
Right. Yeah.
turns related, because a lot of them are kind of rear end accidents that happen just when traffic backs up, so it's not necessarily related to signage or anything like that. So
Right. And if you could, if it isn't too much of a problem, again, so we have some basis of comparison before when, say 3 years ago, before we that sign went up. And let's hope it was, less than 3 years. But I'd also like to see, what, say the last 3 years on Highland have been like, and Maine. And again, that's close to the high school too, so not far from. But that's something I think this board could address, irrespective of what happens with Dave's project. Does anyone have any other concerns with respect to traffic and safety on relative to this project itself?
Dave, was one entrance going to be an entrance and one an exit?
No, we talked about that and we're willing to offer that, but they are right now providing a full double lane aisleway because that's the way the parking works. So there is the ability for 2 cars to pass each other at each one. If you wanted us to designate one as entrance only and one as exit only, we could probably do that. I don't know that that would benefit or create a disadvantage from in and out of the lot.
Right.
The idea is there's more than enough maneuverability. So, and it's not like we're tight on the lot where it's directional parking or it's directional required to enter and exit the property. So right now we're proposing that it's 2-way traffic at both curb cuts.
Okay.
Dave, are you trying to walk out of here with site plan approval or tentative approval
Well,
tonight?
so the ultimate goal is to get site plan approval from the planning board. And I
Right, yes,
believe one of the criteria for them to make that approval is to have a recommendation from this board of, I'm assuming approval. So I don't know what your motion would be, but I think you're an advisory committee that tells the planning board that you've reviewed this and have comments or input on
okay,
the traffic
Okay.
and safety portion of this project.
okay. Do you have the site plan with you tonight? Because what we're looking at is the landscape plan.
Yeah, and I just picked this one up. I can provide that. It's all the information is the same. The only reason I put this one is because it's the most up to date. So I can provide the one that I have provided in the past for you. And that's been in our submittal for the last, I would say, 6 months that you guys might have seen. I could probably grab that. The only thing that we have added, why I thought there was value in that plan that I put up, was we were asked by the planning board to add a sidewalk at the westernmost portion of the property. And
I
that,
think maybe I have the site plan. It's the box is cut off at the bottom. The identification box is cut off at the bottom, but it shows the arrow, double arrows going in and out of the place.
double arrows, right?
Is that the site plan?
So can you still see my screen?
Mhm.
Yes.
So this is the site plan that I presented to you last time, which indicated double arrows at both entrance. But the
Right.
only thing this doesn't have that the newly submitted one that I originally presented was, there's a sidewalk on the westernmost portion of the property that was a request of the planning board.
Well, sidewalk there now, isn't it?
Sidewalk right here on the westernmost portion of the property to connect the parking lot to the street sidewalk.
Oh, okay, so it isn't shown on this plan. Those are trees or bushes or something.
Correct. So if
Yeah,
I
okay.
was to show you this plan, which is now upside down, I apologize. This area right
Oh, okay,
here
now I
is
see
an
it. Yep,
actual
okay.
walkway.
Yeah, okay.
So I felt this was better.
And on the
Yeah, I get
date,
it.
yeah, you've only got one entrance and exit from the parking lot.
There's
Or do you-
2 curb cuts on Highland.
Two, yeah, I'm having problems seeing it on, yeah.
So there's a curb cut here and a curb cut here. And right
Okay.
now, it's just one continuous curb cut, and it's very wide and ambiguous. Well, we've have it defined, and it works
Okay.
with the interior parking.
All right.
Well, there's not much that's gonna change here. The building size is fixed. The state doesn't want any curb cuts. Probably aren't gonna be any. The property lines are fixed, I don't see anything that's gonna change on this site. Now, yes, we may have to put different road signs up, but that's down the road after we see how things perform. And for the sake of moving this along, I think we gotta take a hard look at it and decide whether we'll approve a semi-final set of plans.
Can we say to date that we've reviewed and given input and, can we do it that way? But we'll continue to,
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
I agree.
because that's what it is. Things will open up as this plan takes growth. But we will
Right.
continue to monitor. To date, we approve of what, on the plan, and we'll continue to monitor it as as it comes into fruition.
I think it's really commendable too, Dave, that you approached these people on Highland. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I mean, you
obviously, it's
get
gonna
a like a thumbs up from me. I know the only thing that I think would be interesting to know would be the traffic reports from Main Street and Highland, just for food for thought. But I can't see it being anything crazy where it's gonna make us go, slam the brakes on anything.
We can even
know-
say that to date, the plans are acceptable and we, commend them for doing the neighbors. But we are going to look at a traffic plan for Highland or something like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, I want to make sure my takeaway today is there anything I can do within the property parameters to make it safer in regards to traffic and safety? And I think I'm super appreciative of this board. You've provided some good comments, not only for this project, but for many of my projects in the past. And, I just want to make sure that when I go back to the planning board or I go back to the drawing board, that I've taken all of your input, we've addressed it, and we feel like we put together the best product. So today, I feel like I'm not walking away with any additional comments on the property, but there are some outstanding items maybe beyond the property, which is the intersection of Highland and Main, and you need
Correct.
some information for that. And I respect that totally. So if there's any opportunity, you could give me some type of encouragement or that relays to the planning board so I can move that process on. We're always going to be open to any comments that this board might have if there's something else that develops further with the project, for sure.
Well, then can we make a recommendation? What would that be? I don't know the exact verbiage that we would have to do, but some kind of recommendation as to,
Well, is it following on Wally's suggestions? We're going to wait until we get the traffic reports from the APD?
but that also is external to the building and what's there. And I think he's looking for
Right.
something that is,
Right.
this is not going to change where, too much, that if we say to date, the plans look sufficient, but yet we're going to monitor the traffic pattern on Highland or whatever it is to, we will continue our monitoring as this takes shape.
I agree.
Well, if we're going to continue to monitor the traffic as it develops after it's constructed, there's no reason to hold this up.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, because oftentimes with buildings like this, you do have to wait, even like the neighbor said, don't wait for, don't cause a problem if there isn't one.
Right.
Can I
So-
remind the board on Ellicott Street on the Benderson development? We were all worried about no parking signs and what side to put them on, and then they were on the fire hydrant side, or they weren't on the fire hydrant side, and all this. And we finally decided, why don't we just let them finish the building and open it up and
Right.
deal
That's
with
my
the
point.
traffic problems there. We
Right.
did that. We approved that. just-
Oftentimes when you build something like this or renovate something like this, you put it all together to the best that you can. You anticipate possible problems,
Right.
which you can investigate later. But meanwhile, this is set to go.
I'd like to add or revisit the thoughts, and I think even David mentioned this, just a right-hand turn out onto Highland. Otherwise, depending on what, say, Captain Brown can come up with or does come up with on, any, whether it's a dangerous intersection, Main and Highland.
Right, but Wally, that can be done as we progress, and we can still give him
Right.
something
No,
to
I
go with
agree.
tonight.
No, I absolutely agree, but putting Dave on notice that, hey, if it, maybe we
So-
also have to modify any recommendation to say, no, there'll be only left-hand turns, or right-hand turns out of your driveway onto Highland.
Oh, you're
We have-
saying from the property onto Highland?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, no, I'm just saying, dependent on it, we would continue looking at this.
okay,
Yeah, I don't want to hold it up either. I agree with,
right.
but we would also continue looking at this. Yeah, given whatever Captain Brown might come up with that shows it's, a
Okay.
dangerous intersection, and look to you and your development at that point in time.
Right.
To change.
So what I can say and go on record saying is we would be more than willing to accept whatever approval that you give today, conditioned to there may be some further conversation about ingress and egress of the property. And also what I can say is that we as property owners would be supportive with the other residents in the neighborhood to revisit the Main and Highland intersection for future consideration of traffic control signage and limited turns during certain times of the day. We would be very supportive of that. And we can go on record saying that because we will be one of the neighbors that will be affected by it, for sure.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, somebody want to make a formal motion to recommend, then.
If it helps, while you guys talked, I was able to get some numbers for Main and Highland. It looks like there was 8 accidents in the last 3 years there. I can't tell for sure if they're left turns or turn related at all, but most of them were in 2019, and I can't recall if there was any kind of construction going on back then that may have added to the accident count there, because I know there was definitely some sort of construction on Main Street 3 or 4 years ago. So
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
there's only been 3 since 2019. So I would not call that a problem intersection.
Well, it certainly doesn't sound like it. But we can visit that later after you've had a better opportunity to, Kevin, to do all that, makes any comparisons, say, with California before and after, and see if we want to make a further recommendation to the village board relative to that aspect. But but thank you for that so far. All right.
Can we make a recommendation to accept the plans, to accept the plans as they're submitted, and that we will monitor them for traffic, egress and whatever in the future as the plan progresses? Something to that effect. Does that satisfy people? Better language, most certainly. I'm trying to think myself how to phrase it, but.
Yeah, so we want to put the plan number and the revision number.
Okay.
In this resolution, so everybody knows exactly what document we're talking about.
Yeah,
Which
I can't even read mine.
It's L100. I don't know if there's any revisions. Dave, are the revisions?
There are no revisions, but I'll see if I can find you a date here. I don't know if I can. I mean, we could throw a date stamp on this, but the one presented at today's meeting, and I can formally submit it to Tim Masters.
Okay, it's the preliminary plan, and it's L100, right?
Yep.
And it's no revisions. That should be good enough.
Correct.
All right. Do we have a second on the motion to recommend?
I'll second it.
All right.
And excuse me, Wally,
Yeah,
who made the motion? I know Marilyn started it, Dan finished it, just for the purpose of the minutes. Whose name do I use?
Maryland's.
Ladies
Yeah.
first. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Dan.
Anytime. you can make sense of what I said, go ahead and use my name.
I'll certainly try.
I don't think we need a roll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any, any opposition? Okay. As always, thank you, Dave.
Hey,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I appreciate this board and everything you guys do for us, for sure. I thank you and your time. It's a pretty big dedication. And I know the
Thanks,
pay
Dave.
is great, right?
That's why we're here.
All right.
We're a happy
good.
group.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
too.
Bye now.
All right, moving on to Drexel Hill, I see Ari Goldberg. Anyone else, Ari, with you?
David Cruzy from SRF Associates. is here with
Oh,
me.
that's right. I apologize, David. I did see you too.
No problem.
So I can't bring up everybody, it seems, right now. All right.
Dave, we can still see your screen.
Yeah, no, I'm
There.
I'm gonna reveal all the dirty secrets.
There we
Yeah.
go.
You're more
All right.
technical. You're more technical than I am, Ari. So
We'll
sorry.
see. We'll see.
Have a good night.
All right. Take care, Dave.
Thanks again.
All right, where is your project, Ari or David, whoever wants to address
Sure,
us?
Yeah, so last time we were here, there were concerns about the impact onto Evans Street. I think kind of the resolution we left it was Erie County DPW would be contacted during the secret process, and they would provide comments on any traffic at that time. We did receive a secret response from Erie County DPW on January 19th. And really, they only commented on the methodology within the traffic impact study. They had no concerns or anything that we needed to implement any mitigation features with regard to increases in traffic from the proposal. David and I, mostly David, prepared a response letter that we submitted to Tim earlier today, a response to the comments of Erie County DPW, and we submitted that to Tim earlier today. So what we're looking for today is to, continue to discuss the project, the board's thoughts on it, and then hopefully leave with a similar recommendation to what Dave Sutton proposed, which is you recommend approval of the site plan as submitted, and that way we can continue on to the planning board on Monday.
Ari, is the response that you submitted to Tim Masters today, the 96-page document that Tim posted?
No,
Okay.
it is pronounced Ari, if I could just.
Ari,
for the-
oh, I'm
Ari.
sorry. Ari, okay, yes.
That's
all right.
okay. I know Linda doesn't always get it right. Anyways. No, I think the 96-page document is the initial traffic impact study.
Right.
And that was sent to DPW as part of their request for seeker comments.
Okay.
I can pull up what was submitted today.
Wally, do you know, did we get access to that secret?
No,
secret
I haven't had it.
response
I don't have it either.
From Tim?
No.
I haven't seen, I didn't see that.
I didn't either, Nick.
He didn't send that. He sent the 296-page documents.
Right.
Let me share it. You should be seeing a PDF document with some text. You scroll down, this is the easiest part. So here is the DPW reviewed that 96-page traffic impact study. And their review boils down to these 3 comments. And if you review the theme of the comments is methodology. There were initial concerns. The first comment you can see, there were initial concerns that we took our actual traffic counts in September 2021 when traffic may have been reduced because of the pandemic. Part of our response to that is September 2021 is not the same as March, April of 2020. Yeah, April 2020. So I think that comment is received, but we've also, in anticipation of that, our traffic engineers and David, they adjusted the numbers accordingly. So I'm going to flip back to another page in this document, but you see the first comment from DPW, and then our response is that we adjusted the numbers upward, and that's in our TIS to how we did that, explaining our methodology. And then whether we took the September 2021 numbers or the adjusted upward volumes, our conclusion is the same, that this project will not have a negative impact on traffic conditions and mitigation measures are not required. The second comment from DPW was asking about historic counts of traffic, and that if there are none available, we should be using the trip generation, the ITE. And our response is pretty plain.
How many pages are we looking at here? This
So-
letter, how many pages is
This
it?
is our response letter right here that was submitted today. I think it's a one-page response letter,
Okay, where's
and it
Erie
has-
Erie County and how many is Erie counties?
one page as well. There's
It's
5
really-
pages.
you're
It's
gonna read-
it's
if
included
you're gonna-
it's included as an attachment to our letter, hence the 5 pages. But Erie County's letter has 3 comments within
You're moving
the
so fast.
96 page.
You're moving so fast, I can't.
Okay,
read or
well, let me
read
just,
it.
here, let me see if I
Well-
could, I don't want to make it too small. I thought you would have received this. I could even email it to
You're
the
just
board right
moving too
now.
fast, that's all.
Okay, Mr. Ryder. So there are 3 comments from DPW. The first one was one I
I
explained.
got those. I got those before.
Okay,
Don't have to repeat yourself. I would like to have these letters.
Tim, are you in a position to forward my email to the board members? I don't know if he's listening. I know he's on.
The second
think-
page that you put up with the
Yeah.
responses are,
Yes,
Ari,
would you like me to
I-
go back to that?
Ari, I believe Tim said that he was going to mute himself for the purpose of the meeting. Perhaps you could reach out to him tomorrow and ask him to forward this information to the board members.
I'd be happy to, I could forward it to, I have, Wally is the only one whose email I have. I could forward it to Wally. I believe Eileen's email is available on the website.
Right, Wally's not a technocrat, so don't send it to
So I've
him.
heard.
But
Oh,
if you
yeah,
could send it-
please don't. Yeah,
Right,
uh,
I think the proper thing, Ari, is if you could send it to trustee Tori and then she could direct staff to get it to the board members. That would be very helpful.
That's fine.
Thank you.
The long and short of it is the point of me trying to explain the comments was because apparently it's not in your possession. But the main point to take away from the DPW comments was they didn't comment on the need for mitigation. And I know that was a primary concern of this board. They commented on our methodology, and we've accounted, you sort of preempted these comments in the way David did the traffic impact study, which is he took the counts as they existed. He considered the trip generation models, and he also adjusted numbers upward, accounting for possible lows in traffic due to the pandemic. And regardless of whether we're using the actual counts or the adjusted upward counts, the conclusion remains the same to within a degree of traffic engineering accuracy, which is no mitigation is required.
so there's no increase in traffic at all with this project.
That is not
On
correct. There is increase in traffic, but not to a degree that requires mitigation. We're adding 52 new apartment units.
I'd like to invite you to my house. I live 3 houses from the stop sign, and it takes a block
The stop sign that's
up to at Evans and Eagle.
which we
Block
are
in the
located north
morning
of.
and in the afternoon for me to sit there to try to get to my house because there's so much traffic.
Yeah, this is David Cruzy, SRF Associates. Ultimately, what Ari has been saying is that the county, they did not comment on any operational impacts at the study intersections that were included in that TIS. The way that they laid out their comment letter is sort of a perhaps a little bit in a way, they're understanding that, okay, we had to take traffic counts during the pandemic, September 2021.
Right. And that's less
that-
naturally, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody understands that travel patterns are still disrupted, and were certainly disrupted at that point. And SRF, we understood that they were, and so fortunately we had access to historical data at Evans Street and SJ Road, as well as Evans Street and Eagle Street.
Right.
So taking those historical counts and addressing the county's third comment here about that while the Evans Street volumes were increased to balance the 2019 turning movement counts, the peak hour volumes at Evans Street should be compared to historic 88DD counts and increased if necessary. We did look at that, and so our starting point was we used the 2019 data and we increased that at the intersections of Eagle and Evans and SJ by a factor of 0.5% per year, which is a growth rate that we found based on ADT counts in the area and sort of an ambient growth rate, a consistent growth rate that's been used in other studies. And so that brought us to, and we applied that growth rate for 2 years to a 2021 base condition. And that establishes our existing condition to then compare to future conditions with the proposed project in place.
Can I interrupt you, please?
Sure.
You're using 2019, you're starting out with a base of 2019 counts. What month were those taken?
I'd have to go back and check. Let me look in my in the study here. We talk about it here.
Real quick, Ari, there was if you're sharing your screen, there was a page regarding increase counts. There was part of this letter where it showed an increase amount of trips and whatnot. Could you pop that up?
Yeah, I think that was in our responses, which is on.
Yeah,
the
I just want to read that while we kind of hash things out. Right here, beautiful. Thank you.
If you need me to scroll down, just let me know.
So our 2019 counts were collected in June of 2019 before schools let out.
But
so
those
that's a good
are
month for
during the
data.
pandemic.
No, June 2019.
Yeah.
Those counts were also collected, at a time when we received contract authorization for another project, and that's when we were able to get them. And
okay, maybe I'm wrong. When did the pandemic start? Was it 2019 or 2020?
2019.
Feels like it was a decade ago.
It was March 2020.
March 2020. Yeah.
Okay, I stand corrected.
So his June
2019
2019 data points are really good.
Yeah, and that's why we made sure that we adjusted the 2021 data to the 2019 counts, or use that as a basis for adjustment. Not to just use it.
Sorry, David. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
This was interesting to me, and this quote unquote, the adjustment rate was 0.5 per year. You said that was kind of like an industry standard?
Not an industry standard. We use the as the county asked about with looking at historical ADT counts, average daily traffic counts. We do a ambient growth. We calculate an ambient growth rate in our study areas for all of our traffic impact studies, and that's based on a look back of whatever available traffic data there is from either the Erie County DPW or New York State DOT, which is a very deep list of data. And so we found that the average sort of an ambient growth rate based on historical traffic patterns is about 0.5%.
Okay.
And so we apply that 0.5% in our study to the 2019 counts to adjust it upwards.
Right.
To not overinflate it, but it matches what we've seen as a historical growth of traffic in the area.
Okay,
What
thank you.
size car would that 0.5% be, or how many cars approximately from all that data?
I'd have to do a calculation at the intersection there. It's,
Because I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here. I'm just saying that there's a real problem with traffic on Evans Street. And,
No,
you
we
know, every
understand
traffic
that, and-
study we do, they seem to say, oh, there's no problem on Evans Street until you're on Evans Street. So
it's
So-
a tough,
I'm just concerned as to how we're accommodating this, whether, you know,
To be
so
clear,
it's part
Marilyn,
of also getting a 2021 existing base condition. We not only look at that growth rate, but then we also ask the local municipality if there's any projects that were developed in that 2-year time frame that provide more specificity to an increase in vehicle trips. And there was no other projects identified. So we go with a growth rate that seeks to accommodate any ambient growth as well as perhaps unidentified projects.
I just wanted to quickly clarify, for the record, we're not saying that there's no problems with traffic on Evans. I think what we're saying is the numbers that we introduced to Evans do not exacerbate the problem to any degree that requires mitigation. That's our stance, just to be clear.
To return to Marilyn's point, when I received that document from Tim today, 96 pages, which I did not have time to go through thoroughly, but when you get to page 94, 95, 96 that I have in front of me, AMP conditions at Eagle and Evans Street, and you have a line, intersection capacity utilization, 71%. And to get back to Marilyn's point, who lives at Staley, that intersection in the morning and the afternoon is utilized much greater than 71% of capacity. How do you justify that number?
That's a number that is more of a planning standpoint, that based on the intersection geometry,
So they're planning that the geometry of the intersection will result that it's only used to 71% of capacity? That's ridiculous.
it's part of a formula that has been developed and used in traffic engineering for intersections like that. And
when I see David, I don't mean to interrupt you, but when I see these numbers, I go back 100 years ago when I was a university student, and the first day of statistics class, the professor said, statistics don't lie and liars use statistics. Now, by no means am I suggesting anybody here is a liar, but when I look at this number, and again, Marilyn lives at Staley, that you're saying that the intersection capacity utilization is 71%. We all know that we're dealing with F-grade intersections at both Main and Evans and Eagle and Evans. And one more vehicle is going to exacerbate the problem.
you know, there was some discussion previously with this, this thing about only turning right when you come out of the whatever, so that, you know, the traffic flows down towards Sheridan. It isn't just trying to get rid of a project here, but is there some way to spread out some of this traffic? I mean, wait till Sausalito's opens. If anybody thinks that the traffic isn't going to come to Evans and then cut over to get there, they're sadly mistaken, because that's the easiest way besides Main Street to get there.
Well,
And
first
that's
of all,
going to open in the spring
Totally.
too and affect us.
I know there's an issue with using numbers, but just to be clear, then this is what the numbers would be. This is what we would be spreading out. In the morning, it would be 18 cars leaving. And David, correct me if I'm misinterpreting the chart here. But in the morning, it would be 18 cars leaving. And in the evening, it would be 18 of those cars returning. 6 cars entering in the morning. These are the peak hour rates.
Would you rather cookie?
So by spreading it out, some of these people will be turning right naturally to Sheridan. Some of these people will be turning left towards Main Street, but also then take the light onto SJ. And then some of them will go to the stop sign in front of Marilyn's house, and she can look at them and comment on how big they are and how much worse they're making the traffic. But I think this is not a numbers point, but not all of these cars are going to be leaving in the same direction.
Yeah, and Ari, to speak to that, we estimated that approximately half of the traffic that is generated by the site will travel to the south and come from the south.
Okay.
So if you're looking at this table here, we're gonna basically say in the morning, you're gonna have 3 cars coming in from the south, and you're gonna have 9 cars leaving to the south.
And you're splitting the ITE rates in half, David, right? Using this line here.
We use the higher ITE rates for this project, for the basis of this project, rather than what we counted at the driveways, to maintain that conservative approach, understanding that COVID is occurring and people may be impacted by work from home or what have you.
And in a defense of numbers, I guess without them, our conversation would be pretty wishy-washy. It would be us just telling you there's not going to be increases. But instead, it's us telling you there aren't going to be increases that exacerbate the conditions as explained by numbers. And Marilyn's comment is helpful because then it leads to more robust discussion on, well, let's talk about exactly how those numbers work. So I think,
Yeah, and
I don't know what else we're
I-
supposed to do if we're not allowed to accept an expert report that's in front of you, or a comment from Erie County DPW, who is also an expert on the matter, then there's no going forward with other similar situated projects. Marilyn, please go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you either. I'm still learning how to work this thing. I just want to be sure for my neighbors and for myself who carry on all the time, we can't, because it's very hard for us to get out of our driveways. Most of us can't even turn around in our driveways. Getting out of our driveway, I mean, I've had 2 people hit me coming out of my driveway since I've lived here for the last 9 years. So it's a tricky deal. And we need to be sure that everything that goes on around Evans, that it's recognized that Evans, regardless of what any traffic study says, is a problem street. We can't stop development to some degree, but we have to be sure that we're taking into effect that Evans already is a real problem, especially heading towards Main Street. Going the other way, if I go right out of my driveway, because I live on the east side, if I go right out of my driveway, I can get out. No matter what time of day it is, if I just wait a little bit, I can get out. But if I have to go south and cross Main Street, I could sit there forever. I literally have to go to my right, go down to one of the side streets, come around, loop back, come to the stop sign in order to go right, because there's no way you can break that traffic heading up towards Main Street. And that is 3 times a day. It's at lunchtime also.
I think
So
with the
lunchtime is smaller, but not, it's just to recognize that traffic congestion is there. And that when we do this planning, that we recognize that it is true, and that we just have to be careful how we do things and accommodate those kind of things, not to build that traffic further.
I think there are very few people more keenly aware of that issue than you, your neighbors, and Erie County Department of Public Works, who is responsible for Evans Street. And when we show them these numbers, there wasn't a comment that we need to add as part of this project mitigation features to that stop sign.
But
All
the
right,
county,
so
the county doesn't own the traffic light. The traffic light at Main Street, okay? Nor does the county really have much to do with the intersection of Evans and Eagle, other than to make sure there's stop signs on the Eagles.
if we didn't have that stop sign, we'd never get out of our driveways.
Well, I'm just telling you that a lot of this falls back on the village, okay? And the village, of course, ends up with the traffic and the complaints. You know, I need to, I'm not gonna take any action, vote on anything until I get a chance to review these letters, okay? And I suppose the 90 with.
Sure. Just to be clear, the traffic study was submitted in October.
Okay, well, I got it today. Okay, I
Okay.
didn't get your letters that you brought here tonight with you. Okay, so I need a little time to look at that stuff. Okay.
Sorry.
In order to move this on, you know, we're gonna argue about numbers till the cows come home, or they don't.
Apparently, yeah.
Okay, your numbers, our numbers, and we'll never come to an agreement. Maybe the way to resolve this is to let the project this committee approve the project as drawn. But if things don't work out as mentioned in the traffic study, then we want to come back and have you fix the problem, mitigate it, whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Yeah,
We've offered a fix. I offered a fix. I got a lot of flack about it. The right only going out of the place. And frankly, I don't know anything else you could do. But there would be an expense possibly down the road to correct this or to get rid of the excessive traffic or the added traffic.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. I think that's a good solution moving forward. I think my only instant gut reaction and hesitation to it is, to what extent can we trace additional traffic directly to this project?
I was thinking the same thing.
So we come back in 2 years. I know that's what I'm saying is an issue with the condition is I want to have the conversation and possibly have it again in the future with this group. But if we come back in 2 years and another project is approved and that increases more traffic, if Marilyn mentioned, I think the Sausalitos project, or for some odd reason, Blocher Homes is approved and there's more traffic, to what extent can you trace it back to the 52 new units of Drexel Hill?
Well, you tell us. The whole 96-page report and these letters is all based on a bunch of assumptions anyways. And it did start with some traffic count. I'll give you that. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's this Sausalitos thing? I know what it is.
Chipotle.
Oh,
Whatever it is.
well, I know about that.
It's not
I think
Sausalitos. It's Chipotle.
Salsaritas.
I can spell better than that.
I
got a bad memory.
Go ahead, Paul.
Either one
And I don't
sounds
eat
good.
fast food.
I thought that, and somebody had mentioned this to me recently, that it looks like Blocher is starting back up. I don't live over there. Maybe Marilyn could comment
Yes,
on it.
I'm there every day. I'm there every day with the dogs because I can run the dogs over there. It's great. I wish it would stay like that. But there's no activity except yesterday there was a big truck that went through, in fact, and bulldozed one little grass area. I don't know what it was doing, and then it left. So there, that little bit of activity, and they have plowed they plow the driveway. So other than that, I have not seen anybody over there at all, and I'm there every day.
Wasn't
All
there a
right.
lawsuit on that? Or
Yeah, I thought, that the time had run. I thought Chip Grieco had mentioned that the planning board, that their appeal of the decision to allow Blocher to go forward, the appeal time had run. I don't know that a brief was filed or anything of that nature, but I have a question for Ari and Dave. Basically, these stats that you provided, do they take into consideration? And I think you guys did a study on the Blocher project as well. Did they take into consideration the potential increases from a finished Blocher project?
Yes, sir,
Yes.
they do. They,
Yes.
this study assumes that Blocher will be built as part of full development of the Drexel Home project. So this study assumes the impact from both projects.
It's very interesting because you guys are producing good data, good numbers, but Marilyn lives it every day. When I go to Wegmans, I don't go at a certain time because Evan sucks. It's an interesting problem. I've only been on this committee for a few years, but this is definitely the number one pickle we've had to talk about. What you guys would know more about this than I. Is there any sort of traffic mitigation you could do starting down at SJ and Evans in regards to making that traffic light like a smart light where the light could change timing in regards to part of the day and traffic patterns, because if you could mitigate that problem, yes, right there, you could mitigate the problem down by SJ, you might give Evans and Eagle time to breathe. You might give, Maryland time to back out of her driveway. I don't know, again, this is just because this is, like I said before, this is a tough one for all parties involved. Do you have any suggestion? Is the technology there to make SJ and Evans, that light, a smart light, meaning certain parts of the day, you get a red arrow, you get a red light longer to let traffic go. You get a green arrow, certain times of day to let traffic flow.
Yes,
Could you use your data and present that to the county and say, hey, we're facing a lot of blowback from concerned residents, from the village. We propose this.
I think
The
you
village
bring up a,
intersection, that's a village light. It happens to be owned by the town of Amherst, but the village pays for it. Okay.
yeah,
Who owns that light at SJ and Evans? If I
Town of
crash into it,
Amherst.
who do I write the bill to?
Probably
You
the
gotta-
town of Amherst, but the town
It
probably
is.
pays the village, or the village probably pays the town for that.
Well, maybe this is a question for Ari and David. Is there technology out there to make that a smart light, to make it, more agreeable for traffic patterns at certain times of the day?
you
Well,
can,
let's
Don't know
put
what
this
your options
issue
would
on
be.
hold and go to the next one. Let's go to Whirly Drive, because right now,
No, we're
the town-
talking about SJ and
well,
Evans.
okay.
What
Well, let me tell you, right now, the town of Amherst has put MyoVision on all the lights on Maple Road, and they're finishing up that project. The next road to be done is Whirly Drive from Transit to Harlem. Okay, so yes, there is technology, and that would be a good idea. This is a funny intersection. I've had that question before, because the town does control that thing. But I suppose we could pay them to put MyoVision on it. It's a good idea.
the technology is definitely there. And depending on how the controller of the signal is set up, you can certainly do timing patterns, day plans by particular hour blocks, for weekdays, for weekends, whatever you want, if the capability of that traffic signal, if it has that capability. And that's something that would be a really good conversation that I think, because of the history here, not to pass the buck, but having that come from the village to coordinate between the town, the village, and the county to see if there's a way to perhaps modify that signal. You always try to get the most, the most traffic through an intersection as possible to, have an intersection that operates operationally very good, or to the as good as it can be. And so when you're starting to adjust signal timings, you want to make sure that you're working at that intersection and not adversely impacting others. But in this situation, perhaps there would be some, if it's a 2-3 seconds or so of red time, for the northbound, southbound, depending on where you are on the street, to give that gap for drivers to get out. There could be some benefit, and that could be part of a separate follow-on study, because there is, as you've mentioned, certainly a history of traffic concerns along the Evans Street corridor, and a lot of that is really the result of two major arterials north and south of here, and the sort of ease of Evans Street as a perhaps through route for much of that traffic.
If I may, one last comment on that. The problem is not, the problem is the Main Street light. That's what backs up all the traffic on Evans.
Right,
It's so
right.
long.
Yeah.
It isn't the SJ light. It isn't the feeder system coming up. It's the fact that no one can go anywhere because it takes so long for the Main Street light to change.
Right. Right.
I wonder if again, maybe you guys can chime in on this. If this smart technology could have that SJ light talk to the Main Street lights so they can coordinate a breathable gap for Evans Street. It seems that this committee, we're going to look at the data that you guys are going to email out hopefully this week. I just, from my standpoint, it's going to be very hard for me to put a rubber stamp on a blessing, like, we may give Dave Sutton on this, because we know as village residents, Evans is a nightmare. And it's not because of you guys. It's not because of what you were proposing at Drexel Hill, let alone the Bloker project. It's not what you guys are proposing. It's just what you just said. It's an artery in between two bigger arteries. And if we're going to, look at this more and have the rubber stamp ready, I really think we should explore some sort of technology solving this, because you guys adding these extra home and, your data says it's not going to be, the traffic will be added, but it's going to be, it can be,
Minimal.
mitigated. Yeah. I just can't in my good conscience as a village resident be like, yep, I love the data, love this data, good data. The data is fine, but it's just, ask Marilyn. She lives there. And
it's the Main Street light, though. If we can coordinate
Yeah.
the Main Street light, you will mitigate a lot of traffic on Evans, because the traffic only goes one way on Evans, that it's bad. So I believe their data. But what I'm saying is, every time this comes up, if I don't fight for the fact that what I'm fighting for is the Main Street light's got to be shortened so that the traffic can get across the street. It backs up all the way beyond the stop sign, all the way halfway down, whatever, because the light changes after 4 minutes.
I just want to make a few responses. The first is, we are also introducing new people who are going to live in the village and experience that same traffic. So to the extent there is a solution that does fix an existing problem on Evans, the project developer could eventually support that, because it does make the project more viable. It adds a nice element to living there, is that you don't have to be concerned about heading south on the main road outside of your apartment, because it's going to take you an extra 10 minutes. So if that kind of, if the conversation progresses to the point, we could support some sort of change to the lighting system, especially if it benefits Maryland.
The idea is to unearth the issues as we have to go through all these things. I mean,
but I think my second comment is exactly to that, is your scope is to recommend or not recommend site plan approval of this specific project at 255 Evans Street. What you're identifying are major issues with traffic on Evans that our 11-acre property and our developer can't answer necessarily. And when we go to the experts, they aren't recommending that we answer it. Eventually, one of the main experts who is going to prove this is the planning board, and they have the ability to enforce conditions to the extent reasonable and that they actually directly affect the property. I just want to note your scope, that I think this is a fascinating conversation, and I'm glad that this project, among others, is catalyzing it and progressing it further. But your scope is solely to recommend or site plan approval.
Well, we have our expert on this side of the committee, Maryland.
Well, but just as on the other thing, though, we can approve of something as is, but indicate that there is a problem that should be looked at with regard to, in other words, we might be able to almost do both. If it's carefully worded and we say, look, we recognize that no matter what any traffic study said, there's a problem on Evans with traffic. However, we would like, in the passing of the Drexel problems, we like the village to look at the SJ and the Main Street light so that traffic could flow more freely, mitigating some of the circumstance. Because we can't prevent, totally growth and all the other kinds of things. And we can't just, we're stuck with Evans now the way that it is. But there's a half of an answer to it. I know that.
Can you keep this up? Can you keep this image up?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Marilyn.
It's okay. I'm done with it. I'm just saying that I would never vote to say that, I don't approve of the Drexel project, because I think it's a good project. But the fact of the matter is, I have to be concerned for myself and for my neighbors about Evans Street. But I'm looking at a possible solution too, because our committee, while you're right over what our scope is, our scope includes the village that we're in, and that's who put us on this committee. So we have to be concerned with an impact on the village too.
Yeah, I'm just trying to draw a distinction between the scope of the agenda item in front of you and your general scope. You're 100%
Yeah,
correct.
Ari,
Yes, Wally.
where are you headed most immediately with planning board? You probably have some other committees you have to go before as well. Because what I'm also hearing is, and not to prolong this, but yeah, some of the committee members would certainly like to look at what more vigorously what was submitted to them today, as well as your response or the county's response. And we obviously don't have that. So it looks like we're going to be putting off a final recommendation. And in the meantime, you tell me, because I do have something I want to address the committee with respect to the project. But what's your timeline or thought in that regard most immediately?
So we're appearing next at the planning board on Monday, and then we do have to go to the zoning board of appeals on the 16th, environmental advisory committee on the 21st, and then conceivably we could be back here on March 3rd, your next meeting, giving you 1 month's time to review all the documents before you regarding this project, and then go back to the planning board and zoning board of appeals in the month of March.
Sure,
It's a bit of a chicken and egg situation because planning board cannot act until your recommendation. David and I leaned on some of our contacts to get the seeker response that we made a response to today. We just received that on Tuesday. There are other seeker responses we haven't received yet. DPW is the only one. We think they're out there as seeker has the time to respond has expired, or the time to object to the planning board lead agency status has expired. So we'd be hoping to get a seeker determination by the planning board Monday, excuse me. But I understand if the traffic safety committee is not in a position to do that, that's your prerogative. I'd be happy to furnish any documents to get you that decision come March 3rd. And it sounds like those documents are the letter, since you already have the TIS.
Candidly, I'd like to put it over then to March 3rd. And in the meantime, because I had asked about an independent study. And I thought I had broached this with David way back in October, or Ari, maybe with you. But as I understand it from talking to either Tim or whatever, the village board would have to approve. We can't do anything short of make a recommendation for an independent review of, say, your traffic study. And perhaps some recommendations if that independent review is done. As to traffic mitigation. I keep hearing a lot of what amounts to the state getting involved, and I agree with what Marilyn's saying and what I think I've heard from other people on this committee. That traffic light at Main and Evans is one of the longest ones. And that would probably involve having the state change things. But I'd like to make a motion that this committee recommend an independent study of the traffic on Evans, and what mitigation measures might be proffered by that agency that does that independent study. See if we can have it done if village board were to approve it.
So I
Um,
just want to just touch on this, Dave, just touch on real quick about the traffic signal at Main. What could happen is the village could certainly ask the New York State DOT to review their timing pattern for the corridor. They have been reviewing timing plans and patterns throughout many of the corridors. I know that Dan has mentioned corridors being implemented with the MyoVision, the smart technology. And that's certainly an ongoing strategy and charge that the DOT has been implementing along many of these heavily traveled corridors. So that could, this certainly could be one, and we could certainly see if they have anything in the hopper, or if it's something that should be. And obviously garnering municipal and village support, the state would certainly be more amenable to at least considering that request. But just to really just finish up and touch on what could happen between Main Street and SJ in terms of signalization or the coordination of those two signals, it's going to be unlikely that any sort of coordination can be done between those two, given the distance between them and the fact that Main Street is such a heavily traveled route that the green time is going to favor the movement of traffic through Main Street. Certainly try to consider some side streets, especially side streets with higher volumes coming out. But in terms of trying to coordinate it up to that intersection, it's going to be more unlikely than not that anything could be done with that. So, but again, I just throw that out there from, just what could be the next steps and what you could be facing with DOT. So just some thoughts to consider.
And David, I don't disagree with any of that. I can see the state saying, yeah, wait a minute, we've timed those lights to allow Main Street traffic to go and flow through the village continuously. And I see that. Because the lights, the north-south lights, the one at Cayuga, let alone the one at Evans and Maine, they're interminable for people on Evans, people on Cayuga, and but I get the reasoning as well. I do think we need an independent assessment as much as anything to help and somewhat satisfy the residents on Evans.
Wally, does your recommendation of that assessment include the state part of it? Because I think, the left-hand turn signals added to the wait for the light to turn are what's making it, and they're fairly long. They're as long as the green light. That's what's making it so long. And I don't know that Cayuga and whatever they're not that long.
I just use them as examples. I mean, you could late at night, because I have friends that live on the South Campus, just inside the city of Buffalo line. You can almost drive from Kenmore Avenue straight through and not hit a light to Evans on Main.
That's true, because the turn signals are turned off at that time.
I mean, no, and I get, I'm just thinking in terms of, the state is timing things for obvious reasons. I'm looking for some mitigation, perhaps out of the box mitigation measures too, in any.
Right, that's all I was asking, is that the state be included in your recommendation to look at the timing of the light.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Wally, does the village have a direct contact with the DOT? On the executive level?
Oh.
I don't know that at all.
I'll tell you why. I know the state was putting smart signals on Sheridan Drive from the river to Niagara Falls Boulevard. And then phase 2 was supposed to be from Niagara Falls Boulevard to Transit. And I don't know if that ever got underway. Okay. But I suspect it's something like Mile Vision that the town is putting in. And I wonder if Main Street doesn't already have that or whether that's in the planning. Now, I happen to know what Mile Vision is. Smart signal is a guy can sit in an office and he can change the timing on those signals on the left-hand turn timing and so on and so forth. It's a pretty nice system. And the town has it. We're supposed to go to a demonstration of it one of these days. I don't know when, but it's coming. So I think what this committee's talking about is very appropriate. We just did maybe the village has to spend a lot of money to have a study, maybe not. Maybe the DOT's already done it. Or has something in the works.
I just want to clarify, Wally, that what you're seeking is an independent traffic study, not of just the Drexel Hill traffic impact study, but Evans in general, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make that clear because I think, putting it frankly, we don't want to have to pay for a traffic study for all of Evans.
What was that?
We don't want to pay for a traffic study of all of Evans, but
yeah,
if it's just an independent review of our numbers, that's totally within, there's an escrow account. And I know the village has done that. They did that on other projects, but I understand the scope of your recommendation. Just wanted to clarify for my notes.
And Wally, I think your suggestion, I'm sorry, Marilyn, I didn't mean to talk over you, but your suggestion of an independent study is timely because remember, just a half an hour ago, we were talking to Dave Sutton and that includes more housing in the village. So we're going to bring more people into the village that we have no idea, but may use Evans heading north off of Main Street to get somewhere and just add some more vehicles that aren't part of this equation. And I respect Mr. Goldberg and Cruz's comments that it's our purview just to approve this pattern, this proposed development. But we really have to look at it, as Marilyn said, in the very big picture for the immediate neighborhood, for the benefit of the residents that put up with this on a daily basis. And it sounds like their problem is only going to continue to grow.
But at this juncture, I dare say, unless there's any other thoughts, Ari and Dave, next month, and I'd like to again make a recommendation that the village do an independent study of this traffic study, but with also looking at mitigation measures to include Main Street. I mean, that it's simply put that because the village has to spend that money, as I understand it, for any such study.
Wally, the timing of all of this is going to be extremely difficult. The village, are not marathon runners, so it will be a while before they can come around to coming to terms with the Evans Street problem. And meanwhile, Drexel has this issue here, so we kind of have to look at it philosophically and say, well, look, this continuing Evans Street problem is going to go on, and we've got to because we got all kinds of things going up, and Evans is getting worse and worse. Okay, but if Drexel isn't really going to impact that much, are we thinking about not approving or approving? Is Drexel on the docket? They can't wait for us to figure out what we're going to do with Evans Street either, because that's going to take longer. I think we have to separate that issue.
Any more than I was saying that with respect to Highgate and Main Street.
Right, I get that. And you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Down the line, yes, if indeed, this traffic study, the facts and the figures, and the projections promoted in it are valid, yes, then we're going to have to decide on the basis of that. But down the
Correct.
line, shouldn't the village then be, pushing, other traffic mitigation measures? This has been, Evans and Eagle has been an F intersection now for God knows how many years. I've seen traffic studies ad nauseum, all saying the same thing. Not a thing has been done. Matt suggested a possibility of a traffic measure at SJ and Evans. I just, at some point, we have to move not only this project and a recommendation specific to the project, but at least I think make recommendations, larger recommendations for the village itself down the line. But
I
without-
agree. Two separate
without the
recommendations.
material in hand, I don't know where you're gonna go. I'm not suggesting delay this forever. I'd like to see what the village board does with a recommendation to pay for a study. And see what gets accomplished in the interim.
Trustee Torre, when would that recommendation come before the village board?
That would be the 14th. I would bring it on the 14th.
Okay.
We discuss it during a work session first and see what they say, but it wouldn't be till the 14th. That's the next board meeting.
Okay.
I have a name for this kind of a project. Would
Please.
you like to hear it?
Absolutely.
It's called a lottery project.
What?
It's called a lottery project.
A lottery project?
Yes, because I've had occasion to tell people, the best thing I can tell you is to go buy lottery tickets.
Well, we
Thanks,
have
Dan.
this influx of extra money now that we have in the village. Yes, we didn't spend it on anything else, so maybe we can spend it on this.
We didn't spend it on cleaning out the snow storage areas.
Yeah.
This
we
meeting
didn't
is
spend
being
it on a
recorded.
few other things.
All right,
either,
guys.
so-
Yeah. All right, but
It sounds like you're done with Drexel Hill for tonight, though.
Yeah.
uh,
So we'll
It had to
try
come
the
up sooner or
independent
later.
study.
Okay, Wally,
I will take the independent study to the village board. I think that's what we decided on, correct?
Right.
I think so.
Buy a lottery ticket before you go.
yeah. Well,
Wally,
what?
for the purpose of the minutes, do you want to summarize the recommendation that we're going to ask Eileen or direct Eileen to take to the board on the 14th?
Yeah.
Good idea.
All right. My recommendation, my motion to recommend that we get an independent traffic study. Of Evans, the Evans Eagle Maine area to include recommendations for traffic mitigation, future traffic mitigation. In most immediately, including Maine and Evans. That's essentially it.
Okay, thank you, Wally.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we'll table till next month, Ari and Dave, any future action. And if we get that, I'll make sure it gets sent along to you gentlemen too. And get us that other material from.
I sent it to Trustee Torre while we were speaking.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, and then if there's anything else anything else David or I could provide in the meantime, leading up to March 3rd, please let us know, because we'd like
Yeah.
to reach a final conclusion at that point.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, and if that's the case, certainly, I would do that. I'll CC if anybody, I'll CC the rest of the board members too. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank
again.
you.
all. Good night.
Good
All
I'm
right.
night.
moving ahead, I think.
Adios.
The next item on the agenda is, and I kind of I've lost track of it, but I kind of put it, I think, under old business, because this came up a long time ago. Speeding on
Worley.
Worley. And I don't know who was on the committee at that time, but we had complaints back then, I'd say 4 or 5 years ago. And yeah,
Wally,
there were-
wasn't there a possible solution in the one email that is going to be, that there's some mitigation going on at Worley and Camden, whatever, down there with the light or whatever, that they're working somewhere else now? I read that in the email, so
think
I
Dan-
thought maybe.
That was
Dan
Dan.
Ryder.
Oh, how cute. We got a new member here.
There you go.
Aw.
I think Dan Ryder had mentioned something about, again, that the light system that,
Yeah, they're gonna switch something, so we may not have to do anything, and that could be the response too. I'll look and see if I can find it here.
Well,
Well, Dan's right here. Dan, speak up.
okay. First of all, let me say that I never heard of a speeding problem on Worley, so I'm too new to the board. But when you talk about a speeding problem, it'd be nice to know where you're talking about, address-wise or cross
Sure.
street, eastbound,
Absolutely.
westbound. This thing is kind of undefined.
right.
I guess it's around Cadman. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
But
I having been on Monroe and Worley, living until just recently there, I suspect it's going east on Worley from Garrison. Because the light at Garrison just slows everybody going west. So,
Right.
but I
Well-
agree, it would have been nice to know that.
Well, the reason I'm picking on that point is when I've had to assume things like the direction of traffic or something like that, I've come up wrong. Okay, so I've said, I'm not going to assume that I know anything about this. You got to tell me which direction, this, that, and the other thing. But anyway, when I got your email, Wally, or whoever sent it complaining about this, I called the town and I said, because you have the light on Worley for Ingram Micro.
Yeah.
That's the intersection I think we're talking about. I said the town controls that light, right? Yes, the town owns it and controls it. Okay. So right now, today, if you wanted to hold up the traffic coming out of Ingram Micro and had a good reason to do it, the town could do that easily. Okay. Now, as I said before, Worley Drive is getting smart signals from Transit Road to Harlem. They're in right now, and I think they're in the final testing and commissioning probably. Then they'll be ready in 2022. Okay. Maple Road is done or nearly done. Okay. So Chris Schagel, the traffic engineer with the town, that's the guy I called about the signal. I told him why I was questioning this, this speeding traffic and so on and so forth. And he said, my God, he said, Cadman is 1,400 feet away from Ingram Micro. And he says, I don't think the signal there has much effect on things going on at Cadman. Okay, so there's a speed issue, which I don't know much about, but then there's too much traffic coming from Ingram Micro, and Chris didn't think that was much of an issue. But the signals will improve on Worley in 2022. So I don't think the village should be doing a study on Whirly Drive or anything. Let's wait and see what happens. My gut.
Right, because the signals, Dan, are one thing and speeding's another, and the speeding in regard to Cadman may be the traffic coming off of Worley, turning right at Garrison, because there's just a yield sign. So they're just coming up and going, making that little turn, not coming to a full
Right.
stop, and then hitting the gas again. And, you know, Worley, ever since the county redid it a few years ago, it's a nice, pretty wide road, wide lanes, no potholes on it. People have a tendency from Garrison to Transit to speed a little bit more. So
Yeah,
What's the
that's
speed
what
limit
he's
there now?
talking about, Nick. You're absolutely right, because that's what the gentleman's addressing in the letter. That's exactly what
Right.
he's talking about. Yeah.
right, thank you.
What's the speed limit in the area you're talking about?
Well, the speed limit in the village is posted at 35, but as we know, and every time we address a speeding issue, I said it before, and it's agreed that people think that traffic laws are suggestions, not the law, and lacking enforcement. And we know, Captain Brown has pointed out to us several times, he only has so many resources at his disposal, and the department stretched thin. It probably just comes down to an enforcement issue, which the APD is doing the best they can.
Well, if you want to change the speed limit there, you have to do some speed studies. You have to take counts and record the speeds and so on and so forth. County's going to require that. Maybe the county will do it for you.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we change the speed limit, but I think it's human nature, regardless of what it is, lacking enforcement. People will drive the way they drive.
Well, I heard
Right.
in the emails, I saw something about a flashing radar speed detector with a flasher on.
So that was on Garrison and Cayuga. Those are where those two are deployed,
Right.
not on Worley.
I thought
Yeah.
Is
somebody
that the
was
solar
suggesting.
speed signs?
I think
believe
they're
so,
pretty
Marilyn.
effective to be. I think they're pretty effective to be honest. I
They
know
really are. If you move them around to different spots and stuff like that, they're pretty effective because it tells you right then and there you're going too fast or going too. And people recognize though because they're in your face. And
Yeah.
even if we only have a couple of them in Amherst, that we have to borrow, which is what I remember from another meeting. Being able to put one there for a while and then move it somewhere
It's
else.
county road. It's a county road. It'd have to be approved by the county.
Yeah, but
But
that's
isn't that Worley certainly carries more traffic than Cayuga, who has
That's-
one.
yeah.
Things. Why wouldn't you put a
Yes.
permanent one up there if you're going to put one up?
That's what I was.
and
kinda
that's
thinking.
fine. That's fine too. I'm just saying they had moved it. They moved it around. Recently that sign. So if we could get a permanent. The problem with permanent is you look through it after a while. You don't pay attention to it anymore. Move it to one block and people will notice it. So because that's what people do. They look right through stuff. But a permanent one would be great, that if we had one that we could even move around the village to be able to control what we do with with it when we're having a difficult spot with traffic for a while.
Well, do you have to put one up in each direction? That's one of the
Well,
questions.
it depends on who owns the road. We just can't put them up any which way we want them. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
I got
yeah.
a quick question, if I could. I didn't
Yes.
get copied on the Whirly speed complaints. What is that just neighbor passerby that said people are going fast?
It's a gentleman who lives on Cadman
resident.
Drive. I could send it
Resident
to
of
you.
Camden.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I get a couple hundred of those a year, and we go out and look into those, and probably about 90% of them turn out to be not accurate, because as you're taking your garbage out or doing some yard work outside and a car goes by, it seems like it's going about 50, 60 miles an hour, and we kind of determine it's going about 30 miles an hour. Cars close by to you look like they're going a lot faster than they really are. So I would just take all of that with a little bit of a grain of salt. And as for, we've been putting portable speed trailers up throughout the town. I've been doing it for the last 6 years now. They are a good deterrent for a short period of time. But I think, as Marilyn suggested, people get used to them and people actually try to see how fast they can go. and get their miles per hour up onto the board there and see how. So, and then once you take them away, the speeds go right back to normal. So they are definitely a temporary fix, very short-term one, but they don't last very long either, so.
And my sense also with respect to this individual who registered the complaint at certain hours of the day, it is difficult to cross Worley, say around Cadman and and to get going north or perhaps coming south, but going north during the proverbial rush hours. But that's the sense I got, and that person was looking for some kind of traffic mitigation, be it speed bumps or whatever. But that's a county road we're dealing with in the first instance. So, and then
That's a
putting a
tough
light at Cadman,
Yeah.
I
No, I don't see that either.
No.
yeah.
That light there with that congestion or that split between Worley and the other is tricky anyways. Those apartments that are there. I tell you, you try to make the turn onto Worley there and then try to get into that apartment building. You're lucky you don't get cream from behind from the people coming on the arrow light, to go down Worley. It's a tricky deal. I'm going to tell you.
Sounds like
They are
Evans.
fast.
Yeah.
Well,
You need to
Evans,
stay.
they don't really
You need to stay
speed.
on Evans. Stay
Yeah,
safe.
I'm just going to stay on Evans and I don't want anybody to live in those apartments there.
Stay in your house because you can't get out of your driveway.
No, I mean, that's Evans is worse than down there. You just have to be real careful. But that's a tricky intersection, the way that the road splits there and stuff. So, but and it is, people are going to go faster there. I don't know what we could do about that.
I candidly don't think there's much the village can do on that, short of making recommendations to, the county.
Sometimes one of those signs can be an appeasement. Just say we can rotate the sign to try to slow people down, whether it's effective or not. Even if it's effective for 2 days, at least it looks like we're trying to do something and we can move it around to different spots and stuff like that. Hopefully, in some cases, slow things down a little bit or show the community that we're trying to do what we can in some of these spots, because we most certainly don't want to discourage people from coming to us and giving us their concerns.
How do we request a portable street trailer? Do we put in a request for that?
I deploy them out of the traffic unit. So there's 2 of them. We don't put them on in the winter time. So it's pretty much the same as the parking restriction. So from November to April, they have to stay in because you get a snow like today and it will get ruined and damaged and plowed in and all sorts of stuff. So it's more of a springtime, summertime thing.
Because I think it may be a good idea. Yeah.
Maryland, don't give away all the trade secrets about moving those things around.
Oh, I'll try not to. I can be pretty tricky with all my high school career with running schools and stuff. I can be pretty tricky, so I won't give it away. But Eileen, in your
we always
response
say we always put those out and we always care exactly what happens to them. So
yeah, that's right.
give them the company
we're
line.
hiding inside the sign. We had a camera inside that sign. Did you know it? So we could take things right down there and report on them. We'll get them.
Yeah.
When I play a game, I don't lose. But Eileen,
So
you might be able to, because I know you're really good about getting back to people and stuff. You might be able to say that we can't put a signal in, it's a county road, but we are going to look at one of those, whatever you call them, those computer things. But we can't do it in the winter time because of the snow and stuff. But we will request that in the spring. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
If you remind me in the
Why doesn't the
spring,
village buy one?
Well,
they're very expensive. Oh my
I
gosh.
bet you they're expensive to maintain.
So is everything
Yes.
else.
Very
Yeah.
expensive. But Officer Brown, I will definitely remind you in the springtime.
Yep. I don't, if
Thank
it's
you.
a county road, I ask for forgiveness later, so I'll put it on Worley. I don't care. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, yeah, thank you all. With that, that's the end of the agenda. There was one other item that I think Eileen may have sent around. We've been at this for a couple of hours now. It had to do with snow removal on Main Street. I don't know that that was sent to everybody.
Oh, that was that discussion between Dan and Ben. Dan, you had posted something on Nextdoor.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, when I don't
I can
get
touch on that real
recognized to
quick if you
speak at
want.
the village board meeting, then I'm gonna put it on next door.
Okay,
So
go
we
ahead.
had, we
Done
had
that
a bunch
before.
of, we had a bunch of complaints with that. I talked to Ben about the snow removal. I'm assuming you're talking in the parking lanes, the aprons and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
That is the state's responsibility. They were made aware of it.
No,
They were
no,
just
no.
overwhelmed. They were assisting in the city of Buffalo, trying to get snow removed off the side streets there. And recently, just within the last week or so before this most recent storm, they did get to the all along Route 5 and removed the snow. So I would
Yes,
guess they're
Captain,
gonna have to
I
come
know
back
they
and
did
do
it.
it
They did a
again,
nice
so.
job. They did a nice
did,
job.
they did
But
a
my
very nice job.
complaint was the village responsibility is to remove the snow in the snow storage area, which is between the curb and the sidewalk, and it's all still there. It was this afternoon, okay? Maybe
Right.
it's
No, you're correct.
miraculously
Yeah.
gone,
Yep.
but it's 4 feet high, some of it. Anyway, I have some other news, Wally, new business. Can I bring up some new business?
no, you didn't tell me about it in advance.
Well, you're gonna like this.
And Matt's got to take care of the little one.
Okay,
Please
it's
make
only
it
gonna
quick,
take 1
man,
minute.
quick.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The county is going to repave Worley Drive from the thruway to Harlem Road this year, I hope. And at the intersection of Worley and Arrow, where nobody stops to make
Right.
a right-hand turn because the
No,
signals
there's a
are-
permanent green arrow there.
Well, they're invisible. The signals are terribly misaligned.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're
But
saying.
anyway, they're gonna put in what's called a slip lane, which is effectively what you have down at Worley and Garrison. Okay. They'll have a yield sign on, you just come up there and yield and turn right, which is what everybody's doing right now.
Right.
Right. So I thought you guys that lived over there in that part of town, that part of the village might like that.
Who knows? It may take a little bit more traffic off of, Arrow may end up taking a little more traffic off of Worley then as a result. So if you can legitimately
I'm
make,
not sure how that would happen, but
Is
maybe.
that Cheektowaga over there or Amherst? Or-
It's three,
that's-
Cheektowaga,
three.
Williamsville, and
Yeah,
Amherst.
and town, yeah.
Yep.
And
all three.
George's sweet corn.
Yeah, they pay 3 separate taxes.
Lucky them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's gonna introduce any more traffic on Arrow because there's plenty of traffic there now and they're all going through the signal and.
Oh, yeah,
continue doing that.
absolutely.
Well, as
All
a,
right.
as a last closing note of new old business, raise your glasses and toast. It's been just a little over a year since we put in a request to have the sign changed at Evans and whatever, because you can't read it. The street sign, and it went to the DPW, and I checked my notes, and it's been just over a year that we put it in, and it's still the same sign. So there we go.
It's historical at this point.
That's
Yeah.
right. We're gonna have
It's
a
antique.
have a
It's an
historical party
antique.
for it.
Yeah. It's from
But-
1820 or something, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's-
it's been tagged by HPC, Marilyn, so.
I'm gonna, yeah. I just have
Sorry,
to laugh,
Marilyn.
that's
I'll
all.
try
It's
to
not,
remind Ben again.
not the worst thing in the world to happen, but it was just funny. Okay, so there we go.
Got it.
Anything else, anyone? Short
Yeah,
of the
No
next
more,
meeting?
no more Let's Go Buffalo Bills things on the speed things on Cayuga.
Yeah,
What was that, Matt?
They had, when the Bills were in the playoffs on those, the lights on Cayuga,
Yeah,
the ones that saying you were going too fast, they said, let's go Buffalo on it. And listen, listen, I'm all about it. I really am, but maybe just not on something that's supposed to tell you how, if you're going too fast.
I'll mention that because I know who did that. So
well,
I'll mention that. to
every
Matt.
time it said go Buffalo, at least I knew when I was speeding, it wasn't telling me I was speeding.
I wasn't going
Yeah.
too fast.
Yeah,
Okay,
Oh, boy.
Wally, March 3rd will be the next meeting date, the first Thursday.
yeah,
What
Yeah.
time?
6:30
Works for me.
Works for me.
works for everybody, I take it.
Definitely.
With that one, yeah, I think a motion to adjourn's in order. And do I have
I'll
a
move. I'll move that we
second?
adjourn.
Second, I
Second.
gotta go.
All right,
Thank you, Matt.
Bye.
And
Good night,
thank you
everybody.
all.
Thank you, everybody.
As
Okay.
Very
always.
much.
Zoom meetings are pretty nice in bad weather, aren't they?
Yeah, they're perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
night.
you, everybody.
Night.
Good night,
Night.
all. Take
Good night.
care.